Guys, this will be the only video that you need to get completely shredded.
I think I need a lifeline. Trying to make shit right in this lifetime. I fuck up, that mean it ain't the right time. But right now, nigga, this is all mine. I'm tired of the haters, the bullshit and the layers. And dude, combined pounds lost 40 fucking pounds, bro. Like, super happy. You know, also want to thank you for the simplicity of everything, the diet, the fucking workouts, and be able to work with me since, you know, my job, and you know, it takes up a lot of my time.
Yo, what's up, Jonah? So I started with you a few months ago, and I started at 240 pounds. You got me all the way down to 190. Your meal plans were easy to follow, and easily flexible, so that when I went out to eat, I'd be able to know what to do. Your workouts were great. They were fun, even.
I started talking to Jonah about a week and a half ago, and he put me on this program. I have lost about a pound a day. I cannot lie. And I was a little disturbed when he told me don't do any cardio because
I'm going to walk you through the process of what I've taken over 350 clients to make a full transformation. What is a transformation? A transformation is someone who has built muscle, sped up their metabolism, and has lowered their body fat.
Was 180, I was benching maybe 225, and now I'm 205, and I can bench 275.
That is a transformation. This is not a weight loss transformation. This is a building muscle and losing fat transformation. Okay, last thing, a transformation is not something where you lose weight and then gain it right back. This is a lifestyle change. I'm going to show you how to do all of this, and I'm going to walk you through it step by step. This is the only video that you will need to get completely shredded. Let's walk through the process. Now, I'm going to use my book, a PDF, just so you guys have the information. And if anyone wants this book for free, DM the word, message the word, comment below, shred, and I'll send it to you personally. So let's get started. Break it down into a science that I can put anyone through the process, and they're going to get very, very similar results, which is greatness. Okay, so shred like the pros. This disclaimer, like the material in this book, one is by me, right? Consult your doctor, you know, all the disclaimers and things like that. But let's go into the table of contents. The table of contents goes like this. Okay, so what is shredded? We're going to define what shredded is. A lot of people, there's a difference between lean, there's a difference between cut, there's a difference between shredded. You're going to understand that definition, okay? Terminology. Certain terms in this book, you're going to have to understand, like macros, protein, carbs, fats, drop sets, supersets, things of that nature, so you can understand what the book is actually saying. Where's my metabolism? That is a very good question. A lot of people do not know where their metabolism is at, and a lot of people don't know what their maintenance calories are at. So you cannot be in a caloric deficit without knowing what your maintenance calories are. And we'll talk about how to find that. Where's my metabolism? The sauce to shredded. There's a formula how to get shredded, and I'm going to show you that. Like, I'm going to show you the exact formula. The sauce is very basically how do we implement it, right? Nutrition labels. You do not know if you don't know how much your food you're eating if you cannot read a label. A lot of people say, hey, I'm tracking my macros, hey, I'm tracking my calories. They don't really know what they're doing if you can't read a label. Workout sequencing. How are we going to build this muscle? How are we going to build a plan that is going to expedite or speed up the process of building muscle? How are we going to schedule, right? Schedule these workouts to build as much muscle as possible. We'll talk about that as well. True weight and documentation. A lot of the reasons why people think they're not losing weight is because they do not know how to document properly. Okay? You look at yourself every day. You're not going to see, oh, my arm is slightly bigger. Oh, my waist is slightly smaller. You have to document, and you need to get your true weight, which we'll talk about how to get. How to prevent a plateau. A lot of people on their weight loss journey say, hey, I lost 10 pounds, I lost 20 pounds, I lost 30 pounds, but they can't lose more. We're going to talk about how to get out of a plateau. And last but not certainly least, what are the supplements that we're going to take to support this journey? You're eating more, you're training harder, you're going to need supplements to support that journey. Let's get started. So this is the welcome page, right? I'm not going to really go into depth because you guys will be able to read this, but welcome. I'm glad you decided to take the first step to reaching your fitness goals. Guys, this is a step, right? It's a journey, and the first step is always the hardest, okay? You don't understand how many times I've worked with someone, and like the first step, getting started, saying, hey, I want to change my life, this is the hardest part. So this is why you have a welcome. Learning how to cut the right way is a process. Okay, this isn't a fad diet. This isn't a water shredding diet. This isn't a fruit diet. This isn't a fasting diet. This isn't keto. This isn't any of these things. Why? Because they're not sustainable. You going on a water shred, you fasting for days is not sustainable. Let me riddle you this. If I use an unsustainable way to lose weight, the moment I cannot do that anymore, I'm going to gain the weight back. That's why I'm showing you guys the lifestyle changes of how to make this, right? It took me years of trial and error to figure out how this actually works. Very true. I have a lot of photos I can send you. Years of trial and error, right? In this program, we're going to learn the simple practices, principles, tools, and strategies I've used to build a muscle, stay lean, and maintain a physique I'm proud of year round. This isn't just a fitness plan. Guys, this is a lifestyle. This is a lifestyle. Once you understand all these concepts, you can apply it to your life. When you go on vacation, you don't have to worry about gaining 10 to 15 pounds. When you go here, when you travel, when you go there, when you don't have your meal plan, you're going to know what to do. A lot of the times when people gain weight, they don't even know how they gain weight. Yes, they're eating snacks. Yes, they're doing this, but they really don't know what they were doing. This is going to change all of that. This is about understanding your body. Your body. Everyone's body is going to be different, but you need to understand your body, mastering the habits and learning how to manipulate your physique to look exactly how you want. This is a how-to guide. This is a how-to manual. Okay. Welcome page is over. Right? So let's be real. Being shredded isn't about a number on a scale or starving yourself with chicken and rice. A lot of times people will say, "Hey, I want to weigh 150. I want to weigh 140." Being shredded isn't about the weight, it's about your composition, which we'll talk about. Okay. So, and then for the pro tip, the mindset shift, right? Before we get to introducing your workouts and nutrition, you've got to build the right mindset. Every shredded body starts with discipline and not motivation. Motivation gets you to the gym once. Discipline keeps you training when it's cold, when it's late or inconvenient. This is a process, guys. It's a process. Does this process work every time? Absolutely. But you need to have the discipline to go through it. And a lot of the times why you're gonna build and learn discipline, which is gonna help you have the body that you want. The body that you want requires discipline. And I'm gonna show you how to get there. Right. So mistakes to avoid. Avoid comparing your week one photos to someone's 3-year physique. Play your own game. I've had clients multiple times tell me, "Hey, look at this guy. This guy's transformation is amazing. It's crazy." I'm like, "Bro, that guy's been training for 4 years. This is our first month. If you compare his first month to your first month, you're gonna see that you're making progress. But you're comparing his chapter 10 to your chapter 2. And of course, it's not gonna make any sense." Okay, so let's go into terminology, right? Macros. The reason why macros is the first thing on this list is because macros is that important. Macros is that important. Macros controls your composition. So what are your macros? There's your carbohydrates, your proteins, and your fats. Proteins, amino acids, carbohydrates or carbs, and then fats or lipids, right? So 1 gram of carb is 4 calories. 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. It is the most dense. Maintenance calories, the total amount of calories required on a daily basis to maintain your weight with no gain or no loss. That is your maintenance calories. How much food can I eat in one time period? How much food can I eat in one time period to maintain my same weight? We have to find your maintenance calories, and everyone's maintenance calories is going to be different. This is not a macro calculator. A lot of people make mistakes. They'll go on a macro calculator and type in what are my maintenance calories. The calculator is not going to calculate it accurately. It doesn't know. It doesn't understand how strong you are. It doesn't understand your lifestyle. It doesn't understand your activity levels. And sometimes us as a person, we don't understand how active or inactive we are. Therefore, we cannot put the right amount of calories or we cannot put the right information to get the right answer. Body fat percentage, right? So when we go to our body fat percentage, yes, there's some scales out there that will tell you your body fat percentage, but 9 out of 10 is not as accurate. The most accurate way to tell your body fat percentage is with a DEXA scan. Now, just because the scale isn't completely accurate doesn't mean that we can't get information from it. What we want along this process is to see our body fat decrease, and we want to see our muscle increase. So for instance, let me give you an example. If I'm 200 pounds and my body fat goes from 20% to 15%, but I'm still 200 pounds, that means I must have gained muscle to keep the same weight, but I've lost body fat. That is what we want. That is a win. A caloric deficit. I know you guys have heard this word forever, right? A caloric deficit, if the definition is a calorie deficit, is a shortage in amount of calories consumed relative to the amount of calories required for your maintenance. So to be in a deficit, you have to know what your maintenance calories are. And we're not using a calculator, right? Cutting. So when someone says someone's cutting, it's not physical harm. No, when someone says they're cutting, they're saying they're cutting body fat while maintaining muscle mass. A superset is a technique that requires two exercises back to back. This is a very good way to, one, increase your heart rate or keep your heart rate high while you're working out. Remember, we're cutting, so we want to be burning more calories. We want our heart rate to be high to be burning more calories. And a drop set. A drop set is a great way to, well, let me read the definition. Drop set essentially is a technique when you perform an exercise and then drop, reduce the weight to continue more reps until failure. So especially when you're cutting and you don't have a lot of energy, you might not have enough energy to perform a heavy weight for multiple times. So we'll do a drop set just so you can keep on going. Because like I said, in a deficit, you are going to have a lack of energy. You're going to have less energy. Caloric deficit, calorie, energy, deficit, loss. So where's my metabolism? This is, write a note. This is very, very important. This is where we start getting to the meat and potatoes. Where's my metabolism? Okay, so step one, we have to find where your maintenance calories are. I'm going to read this. Your maintenance calories are, the number of calories you need to stay the same weight. Eat more and you'll gain. Eat less and you'll lose. Sounds simple, but most people have no clue what their actual maintenance numbers is. So here's how you find it like a pro. So, for instance, to find your maintenance calories, you have to, one, understand how much food you're eating. The easiest way to do that is by tracking it. So, what I did, start tracking everything you eat. Anything with calories counts. Meals, drinks, snacks, condiments, sauces. Use a food journal or an app. But the key is consistency. You'll notice something fast. You don't eat the same amount of food every day, and that's the problem. Because you don't eat the same amount of food every day, you don't know where your maintenance is at. That's why your weight fluctuates, because you don't eat the same every day. That's where the fluctuation is happening, right? So that's the problem. Because your body can't adapt to inconsistencies. It can't adapt to eating high meals this day, eating low meals this day, eating once a day, eating 3 times a day, skipping lunch, doing breakfast. Different things are going to affect your weight. So once you've entered the same amount of calories every day, tracking your weight for a week, your weight, weigh yourself, and at the same time, same conditions. For example, every Sunday morning after using the restroom. So a lot of times when people are trying to find their maintenance, they will weigh themselves in the morning, then weigh themselves at night. When tracking your maintenance, it has to be at the same time. You want it in the morning, you want it on an empty stomach, and you want it preferably after a bowel movement, aka using the bathroom. You want all the settings to be the same so you can find where your true maintenance is at, right? Here's how to record or to read the data, right? Let's say you're eating 2,000 calories, for example, you're eating 2,000 calories and you weigh yourself at 200 pounds. If your weight goes up, you're eating above your maintenance. You're at a surplus. If your weight goes down, you're eating below your maintenance. You're at a deficit. If your weight stays the same for 7 to 10 days, you found your maintenance level. Simple, no magic numbers, just read, just real, right? Just real feedback from your body, right? So here's a mistake you want to avoid, right? Weighing yourself every day and panicking. Your weight is going to fluctuate. Even if you're eating the same amount of calories, your weight will fluctuate. Therefore, you only need it for the week. You want the average, right? And also too, so when you're weighing yourself, sodium plays a factor. Water weight. Let's say, for instance, I'm going to weigh myself on Sunday, but on Saturday, at night, I have a very salty meal. I either have ramen or burgers and fries, anything that has a lot of sodium, and I drink water, I am going to be bloated the next day. So just keep that in mind when you're looking for your maintenance. All right. So converting calories into macros. So for instance, once you find this number, you are going to find your maintenance. The user, you who are watching this video, you have to find your maintenance. Now, like I was saying before, you want to keep all the settings as even as possible, right? Same amount of sleep, same amount of sodium intake, which the only reason why you create a meal plan is to keep everything the same. When you eat different foods, when you don't know the macros on certain foods, it's going to fluctuate the results. You have to find what your maintenance is at. Like I said, for instance, guys, if you guys want any help, like I said, I will be sending you guys this book for free. If you guys want any help working one-on-one with me, just DM me, Shred, and once again, I'll ask you if we could be a part of the team. So where's my metabolism at? Now we need to convert your maintenance calories into your macros. Once you find your maintenance calories, it's time to break them down into your macros or macronutrients. Okay, so the nutrients that come up, so these are the nutrients that make up all calories: protein, carbs, and fats. If you see something that says 160 calories, right? You will always be able to see the proteins, the carbs, and the fats to make the calories. So yes, calories are how much energy is in it, but the breakdown will be the protein, carbs, and fats. So, so each macro plays a different role in your body, and getting shredded requires all three to be in the right balance. A lot of people tell me, oh, I only track my protein. That doesn't help you. To be shredded, you need all three in a balance, right? So each macro plays a different role, right? What does protein do? A lot of people know what protein do, but I'll just explain it, right? So protein is the building block of building muscle. Building block of building muscle. It repairs, it rebuilds, it protects hard-earned muscle that you're cutting, right? While you're cutting. It's also the most filling macro. What do I mean by filling? It keeps you the most full, satiated. It keeps you full. So, especially when you're making a diet, a lot of people when dieting or being a caloric deficit, they always talk about, I'm hungry. I need this peptide because I'm hungry. I'm hungry. 9 times out of 10, you're not eating enough protein. That's why you're always hungry. So, which helps you control cravings and keeps you satisfied during your deficit. You're gonna want your protein to be high, right? When protein is low, you'll experience these things. So you'll experience slow recovery after workouts. Why are you always sore? Why are you sore for days? Probably because of lack of protein. You don't have enough protein to after your workout to repair and build the muscle that you're breaking down, right? Muscle growth stalls, meaning that you're not progressing. Your muscles can't get bigger because the workout's breaking down. The repairing part, the getting bigger part, comes from the protein. If I don't have enough protein, I can't rebuild. It's going to slow down how fast you can grow. You'll feel sore for longer and be weaker training sessions. When protein is too high, so that was when it's too low. When protein's too high, digestion can slow. Protein's also hard to break down, right? Digestion can slow if your protein is too high, right? Too high, so digestion can slow. You might feel heavy, right? You could experience constipation or bloating, like I said, because it's hard to break down. It's not dangerous, but more protein you always mean better results. Balance is key, right? So pro tip, aim for 1 gram of protein per body weight if you train consistently 3 to 5 times. When people ask how much protein should I take, it's always going to depend on you, the user. If you're not in the gym, if you're doing home workouts, if you're working out twice a week at doing home workouts, no, you probably won't need a pound of protein per body weight. You probably won't. Now, if you're at the gym, you're training 5 times a week, yes, you can increase the protein to one pound per body weight or 1 gram per body weight or even 1.2. It depends on the user. The thing about fitness, especially by getting shredded, is all these numbers are going to depend on you. I want you guys to understand this is your body. All this depends on you and what you're doing. So, carbohydrates, right? Carbohydrates are your main energy source. Carbs are not bad. I don't know how many videos I've seen. Don't eat rice, don't eat pasta, don't eat. You need those. How are you going to get the energy to do the work? You need carbs. Now, we need a certain amount. It doesn't have to be excessive, but we do need them. They're still essential. Just as essential as protein. Okay, so when your carbs are low, you'll feel low energy, tired, and mental fog, like fogginess, right? Your gym performance drops, lighter weights, weaker pumps, cravings hit hard, and your mood can crash. When people talk about cravings, 9 times out of 10, they're on low carbs. Low carbs will give you cravings. So we want to have the carbs moderate, right? Low is going to be lower than what you need. High is going to be higher than what you need. So low and high are going to be relative to the user or you, the person, right? When your carbs are too high, you'll store extra glycogen. And if you go over your caloric intake, it turns into fat. You'll feel bloated or sluggish, especially if your meals are packed with refined sugars. So when your carbs are too high, a lot of times when people do feel bloated, when people do feel slow, it's because you're gaining too much. Your body can't use all this energy. And it is energy that your body cannot use. Okay, the body's smart enough to be like, okay, I can't use this now. I'll use it later. So I'm gonna store it as fat. Right. Key. So pro tip. Keep most of your carbs around your workouts before and after when your body uses them best. I personally like to use a lot of my carbs before my workout so I can use them. Then after my workout, I like to have carbs so my body can replenish from what it's just done. Now, typically, the American society and how Americans eat is that they want to have this large, big dinner at night and then go to bed. You cannot use any of that food. The protein, the carbs, and the fats that you just have for dinner that you're about to go and sleep, you can't use that energy. So what's the body gonna do? It's gonna store it. That's not how it should work, especially if you're trying to get shredded. You want to be able to use the energy, either use it to work or use it to repair, but it needs to be put to use. Okay. Last but not least, we have fats, right? So fats are your hormones regulation. They support testosterone, they support estrogen balance. They're good for brain health, brain cognitivity. They also support body absorption of vitamins, right? So what happens when your fats are too low? You can experience hormone imbalances. For guys, low libido, and for women, low libido. Irregular cycles, that's for women, or mood swings. Cognitive function drops, poor focus, low motivation, right? And you might even notice the skin breakouts or dryness. Those are all affected by your hormones. Same thing when your fat's too high. It's easily able to overshoot your fats because they're the most calorically dense. You can feel sluggish or bloated. If most fats come from processed oils or junk foods, they're gonna affect the way that you perform. So pro tip is keep healthy fats like olive oils, avocados, nuts, whole eggs, around 20 to 30% of your total calories to come from fats. So here's a quick recap, right? Protein builds and repairs muscle. Too low, slow recovery. Carbs, fuel your workouts. Too low, no energy. Fats, balance your hormones. Too low, brain fog and hormonal issues. Getting shredded isn't about cutting a macro, aka keto, because keto means no carbs, right? AKA carnivore, because carnivore means no carbs, right? It's about mastering the balance that helps work for your body. So to master the balance, I must know the balance, which we'll get to the sauce, right? The sauce for shredding. The sauce for shredding. Okay. So distributing your calories into your macros. Now that you found out the calorie goal, right? What's the calorie goal? The calorie goal would be from your maintenance. Once you understand the calorie goal, we're then going to create your macros from the total amount of calories that you have. And this is how we're going to do it. So for protein, like I said, you're gonna be someone that's following this book. You're gonna be working out at least 5 times a week, right? 5 times a week. So 1 gram of body pound, right? 1 gram a pound per body weight. If you weigh 250 pounds, for example, then the grams amount of protein would be 250. So, for instance, we're just using like rough general numbers. If you have 2,000 calories, and you weigh 250 pounds, which would be too little, but still 250 pounds, it's going to be 250, right? 250 grams times four, because 1 gram of protein is 4 calories times four, which is going to get you 1,000 calories, right? So when we go, so now we have 1,000 calories, and now we have the rest of your calories. So for instance, I'll go into the book itself. When we're doing the fat percentage, there's going to be a range. So the fat percentage that I found that's the best, it can go from 0.25 to zero point 0.4. 0.25 is going to be on the low end for fats for a person, and zero point 0.4 is going to be on the higher end for fat. Now, there's some people who are fat sensitive, meaning when they have a lot of fats, they break out. When they have a lot of fats, they get bloated. Me personally, I am fat sensitive. I cannot have a high fat diet, which is why I can't do keto, which is why I can't do carnivore, because a high fat diet does not work for me. So for me, if I was doing this, I would do it at a 0.25 grams of fats. So what does that look like? So my body weight, right? So we're gonna use our body weight, which is 250. For instance, for example, we're gonna do our body weight, 250 times 0.25 in fats. So 250 times 0.25 is gonna give us 62 grams of fats. 62 times 9 is gonna give us 558. The reason why we got the 9 is because 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. Now, if we're gonna do someone on the high end who wants to use fats on the higher end, we're gonna do 250 once again times zero point 0.4, which is gonna give us 100. 100 times 9 is gonna give us 900 calories. So keeping hormones stable and balanced support. So for instance, all these numbers are the reason why we have this amount of fats is to keep our hormones balanced. Brain health, balance, joint health, balance. This all comes from carbs. I mean, my bad, excuse me. That all comes from fats. So the rest is for carbohydrates. So you got to fill in the rest. So for instance, for phase one, or the person who wants to do a low fat diet, scenario one, it will be their body weight 250, right? So 150 grams of protein. Each gram would be 4, so that's 1,000 calories plus the amount of fat, 0.25, which is 558 calories. That's going to give us, right? That's going to wait. Hold on. Right. So that's going to give us. So for instance, I don't know I said 2,000, but for instance, for this scenario, the maintenance calories of that person was 2,800. So just in case that maintenance was 2,800, right? So it'd be 1,000 plus 558, which minus 200 2,800 is going to give us 1,242 calories left. So 1,242 divided by 4, which 4 grams, 1 gram of carb is 4 grams divided by 4 is going to give us 311 grams of carbs. 311 grams of carbs. And the reason why the carbs are higher is because this person is on a low fat diet. So for instance, if you're someone who likes carbs, your body can utilize carbs. I would prefer you going on a low fat diet to have more carbs. Because the thing at the end of the day is carbs is a source of energy, fat is a source of energy. You're gonna slowly realize which source your body prefers. Me personally, I don't like a high fat diet. I don't really use fat as a source to work that well. I would rather use carbs, so I'll do a low fat diet, higher in carbs. Still going to be in the same deficit compared compared to other scenario, which has a higher fat diet, right? So the higher fat diet, it'll be 1,000 calories because one, the protein's still the same. The fat is going to be at 900 because it's zero point 0.4, so 900. So that person will have 1,900. Wait, yeah, exactly. I have nine. Yeah, calories. Da, 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 da. Fat would be at 100. Carbs would be. Did I even put? Let me see this. Here it is. My bad. I'm just reading this wrong. So yeah. So 2,800 minus 1,000 plus 900, which is 19. So the overall left would be 900, and then divided by 4, which would be 240 grams of carbs. So for instance, the one that has a low fat diet will have 315 grams of carbs. The person that has a higher fat diet will have 225 grams of carbs. The carb difference is, bigger because of the fat difference, but these are just two ways that you can have the same amount of total calories, yet you're still cutting at the same time. You can mix and match. You can see which one your body works better for, but you want to find that out before moving forward. So the sauce you're shredded, right? So we have an example of someone that has a high fat, high carbs, and low fat, which is 250 grams of protein, 62 grams of fats, and 311 grams of carbs, right? So this is a low fat, high carb, and it's the same person, 2,800 calories, that has a higher fat, 100 grams of fat, and a lower grams of carbs. Two different people, both of them are still using 2,800 calories. Both of them are still cutting, but they're using the source of energy differently. Why? Because we have people who are carb sensitive and people who are fat sensitive. Everyone's metabolism has its own fueled preference. Some people run better on carbs, some people run better on fats. This isn't about good or bad, it's about how your body burns fuel more efficiently. Carb sensitive, higher body fat, slower metabolism. So if you gain fat easily or carry high body fat, it's most likely you're going to be carb sensitive. This means the body can handle large carbs intakes efficiently, and most likely the extra source of carbs turn to fat, therefore using them as fuel. So for you, stick with lower carbs and moderate to low fat. Focus on carbs around your workouts, pre and post, when your body can use them the best. Keep protein high and consistent. And then there's a tip from me to you. So we're going to go into chapter 5, which I'm gonna go up to the top. What is chapter 5? So we're talking about the sauce. One, two, three, four, five. We're talking about the sauce. Now, we already have our calories and our breakdown. We're going to talk about what this actually means to you because there's different types of eating, right? The snacker versus the feaster, right? So now that we figure out our macros, let's figure out the best eating style before we put our meal plan together. There's people who like to snack, meaning they want snacks in between. I want a meal, then I want a snack. I want a meal, then I want a snack. I want a meal, then I want a snack. Or there's people who like to feast. They like large meals. There's no right and wrong. When we have our total amount of calories and our macros, we can break them down into however we want to. So for instance, if we have someone that's a feaster to have 3 meals, they would have all their protein, 250, so 250 divided by 3. They have all their carbohydrates, 311 divided by 3. They have all their fats, 62 divided by 3. Every meal would have those macros. Compared to someone who's a snacker, if they wanted 5 meals, they divide all of those by 5. No right, no wrong. However do you want to do this? Because, for instance, guys, going back to the whole thing, this is a lifestyle. If you want snacks in your meal plan, make that a part of your lifestyle. If you want large meals, want to make large meals a part of your lifestyle. This has to work for you. You're gonna get that. You're gonna get that. Consistency. So Here's a shopping list. How I like to shop is I like lean proteins, fatty proteins, high carbs, low carbs, fats and oils, and spices. So, for instance, if I want most of my fat to come from my protein, right, from the meat, from the protein, I'm going to pick fattier proteins. If I want most of my fat to come from other things like cheeses or avocados or oils, I'm going to pick leaner proteins. They all have to mix and match. For instance, it's still a part of your lifestyle. If you don't like avocado, if you don't like cheese, if you don't like nuts, then you don't need these fats and oils because you can pick fatty proteins that are going to get you the same thing. Now, if you don't like fatty proteins and you do need the extra fats, you can pick the fats and oils to make it blend, to make it match. And this is what a shopping list looks like. So, nutrition labels. Once again, this is a big one, right? The macro parts is a big one. Nutrition labels is a big one. Because if you can't read the nutrition label, you don't know how much you're eating. If you don't know how much you're eating, you basically can't go into your maintenance calories. So, right, in order to gain or lose weight, you're going to have to know and explain, right? You've got to know exactly how much protein, carbs, and fats you're eating. It's like saving money. I can't save money if I don't know how much money I'm making and how much money I'm saving or how much money I'm spending. I need to know how much I make, how much I'm saving, and how much I spend. So these are the three things you should focus on every single time. Carbohydrates, fats, protein. Sound similar? That's right, because those are your macros. So let's go into the nutrition label, right? We go into the nutrition label here, which I'll make a little bit bigger, right? The calories, it says 180 calories. Remember, I said this earlier that your macros make up the calories. Here's what this means. You consume 8 grams of carbs, 32 calories, 8 grams, 32 calories, 7 grams of protein, 28. And how are we getting this? 8 times 4, right? 7 times 4, 28. And fat, 15 times 9, which is 135. The total amount of calories is 195. So this label is actually wrong. And this is also what I wanted to explain. The reason why nutrition labels never put 195 is because that's an ugly number. They would rather either round down or go up. Now, technically, they should have put 190. 190 would have been more accurate. And also, to what they're doing is they're saying that the fiber, right? They're saying that this 8 grams of carbs isn't real. They're saying the fiber is -2. So that's also how they're getting 180. They can do that as well because you can't really digest fiber. But in instance, that is really how you calculate your macros. So you don't have to do all the math yourself. We've included a free macro calculator app that tracks, it tracks your app, your proteins, your carbs, your fats for you. That's within my app if you go with coaching with me. So for instance, too, we have something called the serving size. This serving size right here says 2 tablespoons. So if you use 2 tablespoons, technically it should be 32 grams of carbs, 32 grams, period, for the protein. But the reality of it is, I've used 2 tablespoons before. A teaspoon is different than a tablespoon. Always have a scale to weigh it out, which we'll be going into the next chapter. So nutrition labels. And this is why you need a scale. To truly know what a serving is, you need a digital food scale. You place your food on the scale, you weigh it out to exactly 32 grams. That's 1 serving. Once you start doing this consistently, you can hit your macros dead on every time. We do not want to be guessing, especially in the beginning, because guessing, you're going to be skewing your numbers every single time. These numbers have to be exact for you to be at your maintenance. These numbers have to be exact for you to be at your deficit. So when we eat, let's say for instance, we ate this peanut butter, we ate 1 serving of it, 2 tablespoons, subtracting from your total calories. Now that you know how to read a label, let's talk about how to subtract what you eat from your daily totals. Let's use peanut butter as an example. 1 serving is 8 grams of carbs, 7 grams of protein, 42 grams of fat. Now let's say your daily macro goals were 123 grams of protein, 74 grams of fat, 167 grams of carbs. Let's pick the random number, right? We're then going to subtract from our totals. So 116 minus 7, or 223 minus 7 will give us 216. 74 minus 15 will give us 59. 167 minus 8 will give us 159. And that's it. That's how you eat and subtract as you go. So how to weigh your food, right? So one, you can get a scale from Amazon. You're gonna place your scale and make sure it's on a flat surface. If it's not flat, it'll have a number. You want to make sure it's on a flat surface. And then you correct. So you're gonna click the units of measurements. You can use grams or ounces. They're all interchangeable, right? Place the bowl or any container on the top of it. The scale will now weigh the bowl or container. You then want to Press tear or 0 so you don't see the weight of the bowl or the weight of the object that you have on there. The scale should read 0 even though the bolt is flat on an object on top of it. Now you're ready to start adding the food. So you start adding the food, right? If you weigh food or multiple foods at a time, for example, rice and chicken, start by adding one food, then pressing tear to make sure it's 0, then add the next food. Because if you don't do this, if you have rice and you add chicken, it's going to add a total amount of weight. So you don't want to be able to subtract and everything like that. Add the food. Once you have, okay, 4 grams of chicken, we're not going to just put 4 ounces of rice on top of it. We're going to do 4 ounces of chicken, tear 0. Then we're going to add our 4 ounces of rice. So creating your own meal plan. The thing about this program is, like I said, your meal plan itself is going to be a rubric of what your foods you should be eating to make sure that they're accurate. But at the end of the day, once you understand how to get shredded, you can then create your own meal plan. Now, this is a rough draft, right? But this is really roughly what a balanced meal should look like. Any balanced meal, a balanced meal has the following: 48 ounces of protein, 48 ounces of carbs, 150 grams of vegetables, and 1 serving of fat. That is roughly what a balanced meal looks like. You need protein, carbs, fats, and fiber, right? The protein to build muscle, the carbohydrates for the energy so you can do this work, the fats for cognitive function, hormone balances, joint health, and then the fiber to digest the protein that you're eating. You're eating a high protein diet. You need the fiber to break it down. So meal plan examples. So 1, for breakfast, 1 scoop of protein powder, 35 grams of oats, 2 grams of eggs or 2 whole eggs, 150 grams of egg whites. So the protein powders are protein, right? The oats are the carbs, but also oats is a source of fiber, right? The 2 whole eggs, that's fats, and the egg whites are protein. So once again, it has protein, carbs, fats, and fiber. Here, chicken breast, you have protein. Rice, you have carbs. Greens, the green vegetables, you have fiber. Now, this doesn't have fat in it for this meal, but the reason why is because they're getting the fat from the steak. So, for instance, if you're someone who likes to eat steak, and I mentioned before, steak isn't bad, but you cannot have steak for all your meals because your fat will be too high, right? Once again, the fat is at 63 grams. So this person can eat steak and still be lean because they're having chicken, because they're having white fish. It's balancing out. So yes, is there fat in this meal? No, because they're getting fat from meal 2. That's how it balances completely. Same thing, a meal example. And this meal, this is someone who likes larger meals. They have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They have 3 meals. This is someone who wants snacks in between. So this is a meal plan for a feaster, and this is a meal plan for someone who's a snacker. Meal, snack, meal, snack, meal, snack. You get it. Same thing. Look at it. The protein's at 360, 236. The carbs are at 190. The fats at 63. So they have the same macros. They have the same macros, yet their meal plan looks different. Why? Because they're 2 different people. People who like to snack and 2 people who like to feast. 2 different lifestyles, but they're having the same result of cutting, of shredding. And also they have their water intake. The reason why you want your water intake consistent is because, like I said, if you don't drink enough water, or if you don't drink water and you try to weigh yourself and the sodium's high, you're going to be bloated. The scale's going to look like you're gaining weight, when in reality you're not. It's just the water intake. So you want to just be able to control all the variables. And these are just multiple real plans. Now we're going to get into a workout sequencing. So for workout sequencing, we know something called a compound movement. A compound movement, compound meaning multiple, movement meaning moving. So multiple muscle groups are moving. So a compound movement involves multiple muscle groups working together to perform a singular exercise. Energy demand. Compound movements require the most energy, so they should be performed at the beginning of your workout. You want the compound lifts in the beginning of your workout. Tempo. Performing the eccentric lifting phase should be explosive, and the eccentric should be slower. So if I'm doing a squat, the lifting phase will be the squatting down, and the coming up will be the slow part. Example, squats, deadlifts, bench press, pull-ups, rows. So let's talk about, for instance, the tempo, right? The tempo for concentric, right? So for the concentric lifting, the lifting part of a bench will be the press. The coming down will be the eccentric. For a pull-up, it will be the pull. The coming down will be the eccentric. For a squat, the concentric will be coming down and the eccentric will be coming up. A deadlift, the pull will be the concentric and the eccentric will be coming back down. And then we have the tempo. So for compound movements, the tempo should be like a 1 second. Explosive. Second, we have our isolated movements. Isolated movement targets a single muscle group while minimizing involvement with other muscle groups, right? So isolated movements should be coming after your compound movements. The isolated movements, they isolate exercises are highly effective for increasing the size of a specific muscle group because they're not compound. Of course, the isolated movements are going to increase the size of a movement because it's not a compound. It's the only muscle that's working within the movement. But a compound movement gives you the most strength. So the reason why you want your compound movements first is because you're going to build the most strength so you can go to your isolated movements, be stronger, and isolate that muscle more. This would be the workout sequencing. Compound, isolated. The tempo's going to be a little bit slower because while you have more help, you're going to be in a machine or something to isolate the movement. And then, for examples, bicep curls, tricep pushdowns, leg extensions. These are going to be your isolated movements. And then last but not least, you have your time under tension movements. These movements are going to be at the end of your workout. So compounds first, isolated movements second, time under tension movements third, right? So time under tension movements is similar to isolated movements, but typically is used by a cable or band to maintain constant tension. So because they're the most assisted and you have constant tension, they're going to be the easiest movements to do. They're going to take the less strength, which is why you want them at the end of the workout. So examples could be bicep cable curls, cable lateral raises, tricep rope pushdowns, cable leg extensions. And then this is welcoming to workout sequencing. So this is the advanced part of training. We're going to explain how you're going to warm up properly, right? So when we're talking about warming up the lower body, I like to have a foam roller just to make sure you stretch out if anything was tight, a foam roller. You can do high knees, butt kicks, high kicks, frog jumps. These are dynamic movements. These are not stretches. Dynamic movements, one, you're stretching a muscle, but you're also in movement. It's not a still movement. Dynamic meaning that it's moving, right? Warm up. So warm up for push workouts. One set of wide grip, close push-ups, one set of cable flies. So for the one set, 10 reps of wide, neutral, and close. These are all parts of your chest. Wide, neutral, and close grip push-ups. That's one set. And two sets of cable flies, and one set of rope extensions. One cable flies to open up your chest, and then the rope extensions to warm up your triceps. These are all for pushing movements for upper body. Then warm-ups for pull days, foam roll as well, dynamic stretching, 3 sets of 7 pull-ups, and then 2 sets of lat pull-downs. A pull-up is very good for a warm-up for the back because you're targeting all parts of your back while you're doing a pull-up. So at this point, if you feel like you're warmed up, you're ready to begin your workout, these at least do these. So these at least for one warm-up set for each or warm-up set before your workout. So when we talk about workout sequencing, types of workouts. So type 1 is a strength. So a type 1 workout, a type 1 exercise is a strength workout. These are the compound movements, and these are examples. Type 2, which is strength stretch, which are isolated movements, and these are the workouts. And then type 3, which is time and attention, which involves a cable, and these are the examples for time and attention workouts. So for instance, this is how to explain on how are you going to set up your workout plan. Compounds first, isolated second, time and attention third, and here's are the examples. And then this is going to be my workout plan, and this is going to be the workout plan. These are the examples for the workout plan. So chapter 8 is true weight and documentation. A lot of people when doing a fitness journey, they think, man, I'm just not getting results. Man, I'm just not getting results. It's not that you're not getting results. You don't know how to document correctly so you can see the results. So far you've learned how to calculate your macros, your form a food budget. You've also learned how to properly read the macros on the nutrition label and plug them into your macros so you know what you're eating. Now we need to take all the information together. So let's start the entire process starting from in the morning. On the first day, you're going to use your bathroom in the mirror or in the morning. You should weigh yourself in the morning. This is once a week. Weigh yourself in the morning. Make sure your bladder's completely empty. Preferably you weigh yourself naked, right? We don't want any, because the reason why I say weigh yourself naked, obviously you can have underwear, but you don't want, oh, I wore a hoodie this time, or oh, I wore a jacket this time. You don't want any fluctuations. I want this to be truly what your weight is, right? What your weight is. Eating, so for instance, during the day, so on an empty bladder, this is your true weight. During the day, your weight can fluctuate. Eating, drinking, bloating, and other normal activities can cause your weight to be different than it is in the morning when you're fasted. Right. So one photo standing in front of the camera, one photo standing to the side, and one photo to the back. This is extremely important because it is very common for people to lose weight but claim they don't see the difference. So they just give up. Honestly, I've done the same thing. I've gained 10 pounds or 20 pounds and I haven't seen a change, which can be very frustrating. You have to, the photos do not lie. If you look at yourself every day, you're not going to see the change. The photos do not lie. You take these photos weekly, right? Weigh yourself weekly. And week 1 to week 4, week 4 to week 8, you're going to see the changes in the photos. And this is an example. So photo from the front, photo from the side, photo from the back. And then this is like, now if you want to do measurements, there's some people who like to do measurements because the scale doesn't really tell the full story in terms of, let's say for instance, I've built muscle and I've lost fat. That's a body recomposition. I could stay the same weight. If I build muscle and lose fat, I can stay the same weight. But my composition is gonna be different. My waist is gonna be smaller. My chest might be bigger. My waist is gonna be smaller. My chest might be bigger. My arms might be bigger. So we want to have the measurements too, just to see exactly what's going on. So weekly, I want you guys to keep track. This is what I do as a coach, but like I said, I'm showing you how to do this yourself weekly. So your name, your date, mental health. How are you feeling, right? How's your sleep quality? If your sleep quality is poor, it can cause you to gain weight, or it can cause you to not lose weight if your sleep quality is poor, right? Average hours of sleep. We want 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Did you finish or did you finish your daily water intake? For instance, I say this all the time. Let's say I drink water, I need a gallon a day. Let's say I drink water Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I forget to drink water Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. On Sunday, if I weigh myself, and on Saturday I drink a lot of water, all that water, I'm not gonna be able to get rid of it because I'm not consistently drinking the same amount. So on that Sunday, my water weight is going to be up. It's like a dry sponge. If I have a dry sponge and I put water on it, it's gonna inflate. Now, if I have a sponge that constantly gets water, it can't get bigger because that's what it's constantly holding the water. A lot of times when people are trying to find their maintenance calories because they're not drinking consistently the same amount of water, their weight will fluctuate just because of water alone. So then they get confused and they think, oh, I'm eating too much and want to increase their maintenance, which isn't correct. So I'm just trying to give you things to get out of that. How is your digestion feeling? Great, normal, some issues, poor. If we're not using a bathroom, which is a lack of fiber, like of vegetables, like a fruit, we will not be getting our actual weight loss. We won't be getting our actual weight because we're not using the bathroom correctly. So just keep in mind, if our digestion's off, if our water's off, it's going to mess up the scale. It's going to mess up what's happening. So when people say, "Oh, I tried all these things and I can't lose weight," that might be true, but it might not be from the food you're eating. It might be from the other things. These are all factors. This weekly check-in form is really factors that affect your weight. Your sleep quality affects your weight. Your water affects your weight. Digestion affects your weight. You having a mishap. If you eat off the diet, that's going to affect your weight. Your stress levels will affect your weight. And then how much cardio will affect your weight. So for instance, let's say you're doing 20 minutes of cardio and you stop doing cardio. That will affect your weight. So true weight and documentation. When we're looking on getting shredded, these are the things that you're going to see. Where am I going to look for changes? Changes in the face, changes in the chest, changes in the shoulders, changes in the stomach, changes in the legs, changes in the arms. A lot of times when people are looking for a result in their body, they're looking at one spot. They're looking at their abs. I don't see my abs. I don't see my abs. But your back got leaner, but your chest got leaner, but your face got leaner. It's not always going to be in that one spot as you're losing body fat. Instead of chasing gratification from numbers on the scale, focus on what your body is actually doing. It's not always in the beginning, it's not always about the weight loss. Now, yes, you will have weight loss, but in the beginning, sometimes you gotta just take, hey, the scale might be the same, but my body is changing in terms of composition. That's still a win. It's me versus me. You guys need to remember that. This journey is about you. It's about learning new, mastering new. It's all about you. It has nothing to do with everybody else, what people are saying, what people are doing. This journey is for you. How to prevent a plateau. I consider a plateau when you hit your macros, you're doing your workouts, but your weight remains the same for more than 2 weeks. The reason behind most plateaus is the lack of strategy, modifications, and training programs, nutrition, and listening to your body. These topics will help you learn how to avoid plateaus to maximize your gains. A lot of times when people hit a plateau, it's from a lack of sleep. A lack of sleep, like I said, it can cause inflammation because you're not resting. A lack of sleep can cause cortisol levels to rise, which means it's going to slow down metabolism, which means you're going to be either maintaining weight or gaining weight. I have seen this personally in my life where I'm very stressed out, I'm sleeping for 4 hours, I'm not losing weight. The moment I have a good night's sleep, I lose 30 something pounds. I didn't change my training. I didn't change my workouts. I didn't change my nutrition. It was simply from sleep. There's a lot of times sleep is probably going to be the problem, right? Now, let's say our sleep is perfect. We might have to increase our cardio. What I mean by increasing cardio is increase in output, increase in performance, increase whether it's lifting more sets, more reps, lifting heavier, or the easiest way to do is increase the cardio. We need to increase the output. Last but not least, so increasing the cardio example, 3 times a week for 20 minutes, we can increase the cardio for 5 times a week for 20 minutes. So we didn't increase the time, we didn't increase the time in terms of distance, we increased the frequency. Or we can increase the cardio 5 times a week for 25 minutes. So what happens after, so for instance, this is all examples, right? An example of this happens to you. So you can do increasing cardio from 3 times a week for 20 minutes to 5 times a week for 20 minutes. If nothing happens after that, we'll do the increase from cardio 5 times a week and we'll increase the duration to 25 minutes. Now, decreasing carbs and fats. Now I want to put it in this. The reason why I put it in this order, I want to look for your sleep to be the first thing. I want to look for increasing your output to be the second thing. And then last but not least, I put decreasing carbs or fats. A lot of times, this is the first thing that people do is they want to decrease their carbs and fats when trying to lose weight. No, it can either be your sleep, it can either be increase the cardio. This is the last resort, right? I want to make changes to the carbs and fats as a last resort. Why? Because like I said, carbs and fats are sources of energy. When we start decreasing the carbs and fats, it might decrease our output in terms of how much weight you're lifting. If we decrease how much weight you're lifting, it's gonna decrease how much muscle you can put on. So this will be the last resort. If you're not getting the right, if you're getting the right amount of sleep, which is 8 to 9 hours, if you increase your cardio, it's time to start. And you increase your cardio, it didn't work. It's now time to start decreasing your carbs or your fats. You can do this anywhere from 20 to 50 grams. If that still doesn't work, we start decreasing the fat anywhere from 10 to 30 grams. Repeat in 2 weeks if you don't see changes. That is how you get yourself out of a plateau. Now, how you get yourself out of a plateau, if it is a plateau, or if your numbers are just wrong, meant to go back and fix that, or if that's not the case, then when we start using supplements. So, for instance, if we're increasing cardio, which we'll talk back into the next chapter, which is supplements. There's supplements for sleep, there's supplements for cardio, and there's supplements to help with the lack of carbs and fats, right? So day one, this is how the workout split would look like in terms of how we're working out. We have our little jog, we have our leg press to warm up, and we have our workouts compound, standing cave races. So compound, time and attention, compound, time and attention, isolated movement. And these are workouts. Day 2, day 3, and now we're going to supplementation, right? So when we're talking about supplements, there's supplements for energy. These are your pre-workouts, right? Pre-workouts have caffeine. When we talk about just decreasing our carbs and fats, we're going to want caffeine, right, to trick the body into feeling like we have energy, even though we don't. So pre-workouts, right? So supplements that help with low energy levels because we decrease the carbs and fats. Pre-workout, source of energy with 0 calories. Coffee, source of energy. Tea, source of energy. Fat burner, source of energy with 0 calories. These are types of, so the supplements, the classification for supplements are energy. You can get energy from pre-workouts, coffee, tea, fat burners, because they all have caffeine, right? Gut health, when we talk about digestion. So greens help with gut health. Magnesium citrate, that also helps with gut health. Glutamine, which helps with sleeping, which helps with, well, glutamine helps with gut health, but it helps with sleeping as well. That's more for sleeping. And then we talked about immunity and bones, right? So multivitamins help with your bone and joint support. Zinc helps with your immune system. Elderberry helps with your immune system. Magnesium helps with normal magnesium helps with building and forming um, bone building cells. Magnesium's somewhere in there. And then fish oils to help with bones as well. So these are different types of categories that we're dealing with your health. In terms of energy, because lack of calories. In terms of your gut health, for instance, like I said, things will slow down when you're on a deficit. You're going to need the supplements to support. Magnesium is more into immunity, but immunity and sleep, and then bone and joints. And then no consistency, no results. Guys, that was the overall guide. And then there's just this one last picture, right? Thank you. That was my whole overall guide on how to get shredded, guys. This whole entire process has helped over 350 people. I will show the transformations, but this is my process. Now, along this way, this is a book, right? This is a rule brick, but we all know real life happens. Real things can happen. If you guys need any tips, I coach one-on-one. All of these things, these are all information to know. But when life is happening, you might need that support. You might need a coach. You might need the accountability just to help you push through. Like I said, DM me Shred, and anyone watching this video can get this book for free. And then DM me LS, or just DM me. You can DM me anything really, and just talk about one-on-one coaching, and we can see if it'd be a good fit for the team to get you shredded. Guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Take notes. This is everything you need on how to get shredded. There's no one talking about it in this depth, in this order on really how to get shredded. And you guys know all the sauce. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace. I hope you guys, for anyways, comment, like, subscribe. I gave you guys too many sauce. You guys to not leave anything. Peace, guys.